Hello everyone, this is myself Saravanan, Professor, Department of Mechanical Engineering, Erode Secondary Engineering College, Tirupati, Erode. Here in this video, we can talk about engineering metallurgy. So first of all, what is meant by material science? So basically, material science deals with knowledge about structure of the materials, manufacturing of the materials, properties of the materials, and processing of the materials into useful product. In this era, material science play a vital role in further development of engineering field. So material science deals with basically applications of knowledge gained by materials and that knowledge converted into useful product to the society. So we have a n number of n kind of materials, and that materials are processed, and finally we have to apply knowledge, and based on the societal needs we have to prepare a material and put it in the resultant knowledge of structure and properties. We have to apply the knowledge and properties, finally we get it into the product. So that is called material science, that is the use of material science. We have a That's why we study about the properties and applications of materials. First of all, we have to know the properties and applications, then only we can put it into the properties and applications to the particular product. that product, then only that product is useful to the society and human kind. So that is the use of material science. So basically, material science is the basic knowledge about structure, properties, and processing of materials, and material science and engineering is the use that applications of knowledge gained by the materials, and based on the properties, structure, and applications, we have to convert into the material into product. So basically, this is the material science. Material science is the basic knowledge of materials, and material science and engineering is the resultant of knowledge of structure and properties, and finally materials engineering is applied knowledge into materials. Applied knowledge is converted into useful materials that could be used to the mankind and society of in our day-to-day activities. So then only we have to use a material. So that's why we have to study the properties of materials. There are different types of materials are available. First one is the metallic material and non-metallic materials. And metals and alloys are classified into metals and ferrous and non-ferrous. Ferrous materials means it contains iron content. Examples of ferrous materials are steel and cast iron, and non-ferrous materials are the does not having iron content. So here ferrous materials, iron is the prime constituent, and but non-ferrous materials, iron does not contain a prime constituents. So examples of ferrous materials are steel and cast iron, and examples of non-ferrous materials are copper and aluminium. In this metallic material, that is material composed of one or more element, that is called iron, copper and aluminium. Metallic element may combine with non-metallic element, means that is called silicon carbide, iron oxide, etc. And inorganic and also materials have a crystalline structure, and inorganic materials having a very good thermal and electrical conductor also. So here in this video, we can mainly study about mechanical properties of materials. Before that, what are all the material properties are available? So there are n number of material properties available. First one is the physical property, and second one is the chemical property, and third one is the electrical property, fourth one is the magnetic property, and fifth one is the thermal property, and next one is technological property, and another one is aesthetic, and another one is economic properties, and a lot more optical property, acoustical property, physico-chemical, psychochemical, and other properties. In that, material having physical property means its density, diameter, thickness, and strength to weight ratio. So those kind of properties are called the physical properties. And chemical properties, chemical structure, atomic weight, atomic radius, chemical composition, present in the particular material, that is called chemical properties. Electrical properties, electrical conductivity, electrical resistance, that kind of properties possessed in the material is called electrical properties. Magnetic properties, what are the this material is magnetic or non-magnetic, hysteresis, losses, and those kind of properties is called magnetic properties. And another one is thermal properties. It's heat, conduction, convection, radiation. It's heat insulating material or thermal conducting material is called thermal properties. Technological properties. What are the technological aspects? So based on the material, we classify that properties, and those properties is called technological properties. Aesthetic properties. Material look, material aesthetic, material appearance. That kind of properties is called aesthetic properties. Economic properties. What are this material is so much expensive, cost expensive, less expensive. Those kind of economic aspect is called economic properties. Optical property. It is optically it's okay or not. That is called optical property. And acoustic property. That is sound absorbing, sound reflecting. So those kind of properties called acoustical properties. And another one, psychochemical properties, and lot more. These are all the some kind of properties that possessed in the materials. So we can thoroughly study about these kind of material properties. Then only we go for a better understanding about material properties. Then only we go for a applications. Based on the properties, we put it in the particular material in particular applications. So without knowing the material properties, we cannot go for material applications. So that's why we study one by one what are the properties possessed, what are the characteristics possessed in that particular material. So these are the material properties. And next we go for the topic mechanical properties and testing. What are the mechanical properties are available? So here generally telling that what are the material properties are available in the last slide, that is physical property, optical property, chemical property, mechanical property, optical property, acoustic property, electrical property, thermal property. So those are the general category of properties. So here we can specifically talking about mechanical properties and its testing of materials. So what are the here we are only concentrated about mechanical properties. So what are the mechanical properties available? That is elasticity, plasticity, ductility, malleability, brittleness, hardness, toughness, strength, resilience, grip, fatigue strength, impact strength, endurance limit, flexural strength, compressive strength, tensile strength. So lot more mechanical properties are available. So here we can study one by one. In the first one, before going to know the mechanical properties and its testing, we have to know about the mechanism of plastic deformation, that is mechanical of plastic deformation in the kind of slip and twinning. In the first one, plastic deformation. So what is the plastic deformation? Plastic deformation is a change of material dimension remaining after the removal of load. So after removing the load, so what are the material dimension changes? That is change in length, change in diameter, change in height, weight, whatever it may be. That is change in length after the removal of load. That caused by, after removal of load, that material caused one type of some deformation that called plastic deformation. And next one, slip. Slip can be may be defined as sliding blocks of crystal over one another along a particular crystallographic plane. So particular crystallographic plane, sliding of crystal blocks over one, sliding of crystal blocks over one over another. So that sliding of crystal blocks over one another, that is called the slip. In what way slip occurs? Slip occurs when the Resolved stress along the gliding planes reaches the critical value. So until it does not reaches the critical value means slip does not occur. This gliding planes, the resolved stress reaches the critical limit or critical value that slip may be occur. This critical resolved shear stress is a property of the material. So this is only property of the material. So slip and twinning. Twinning is another process in which atoms in a part of crystal subjected to stress. So after the atoms in a part of crystal subjected to stress, they rearrange themselves though, so the one part of the crystal becomes mirror image of the another part. Atoms in a one part of a crystal subjected to stress means these atoms are rearranged themselves so that after rearranging so that one part of the crystal image may be mirror image of the another part, that is called twinning. So these process that is slip and twinning occurring during plastic deformation. So that is called plastic deformation as the result of formation of preferred orientation of grains. And finally, the stress value needed for slip is higher than the cohesion strength, the metal fracture will occur. So here certain metals, that is zinc and bismuth, deform by process of twinning that differ from the normal slip mechanism where all atoms in a block move the same distance. So in the deformation of twinning, atoms of each slip plane in a block move different distance, that creating a half of the crystal lattice to become a mirror image of the another half, that is called twinning. So there are these two kinds of deformation takes place in a metal, that is called the plastic deformation. That is after removal of load, what is the changes in the dimension of material? What is the deformation? What are the changes in deformation? That is called twinning, plastic deformation. And this plastic deformation is accompanied by changing the both internal and external state, and it is not a reversible. So plastic deformation is not a reversible. Once it's happened, it's happened. That is permanent deformation that involves distortion of the crystal and microstructure. So crystal and microstructure distortion will take place in a permanent deformation. This mechanism carried out in working and shaping process, we have to do it in a bending, stamping, drawing, spinning, rolling, forging, extruding, etc. So we have to carry out these kind of shaping process. For that process, bending process, drawing process, stamping process, bending, spinning, forging, extruding, rolling process, those kind of process we have to carry out in a particular material. These kind of deformation will, plastic deformation will takes place. The stamping of automobile components, pressing of sieve, shafting, spinning of aluminum pans, rolling of boiler plates, rails, I-beams, drawing of a wire, extension of telephone cables, forging of crankshaft, in all operations involve the plastic. These kind of operations, plastic deformation involves in metals and alloys. So here this is the before loading and after loading, and finally load removed. So this is stress applied in this direction and in this direction. So after the load removal, the deformation will take place this kind of manner, and this is the permanent. So that is called slip and twinning. So the stamping of automobile components, pressing of ship shafting, pinning of aluminium planks, rolling of boiler plates, rails, I-beams, drawing of wire, extension of telephone cables, forging of crankshaft, and all operation involves plastic deformation of metals and alloys. And here we can see about plastic deformation by slip. Already told, slip is defined as the mechanism of deformation where one part of the crystal moves slip over another part along a certain crystallographic plane. So sliding block of the crystal moves one another along a definite crystallographic plane. So that is called slip. So that is the mechanism of deformation. One part of the crystal slips over another part of the particular plane, that is known as slip plane. Why this kind of slip occurs in metals and alloys? That is pure shearing of stresses that are acting across the specimen irrespective of the crystal that is subjected to tensile or compressive loads, compressive stress. Specimen subjected to tensile or compressive stresses, that is due to the pure shearing stress acting across the specimen. So slip occur. Here slip is governed by the following rules. First one is it occurs only along a particular crystallographic plane and particular direction. This slip occurs only along the most closely packed set of planes. Slip direction is the direction on when the atoms are most closely packed. When atoms are most closely packed means that direction the slip will occur. Slip will occur in that particular crystallographic plane. Slip direction is the direction on when the atoms are mostly closely packed, and slip occurs on the particular system where shear stress is maximum. For example, 45 degree to the applied tensile force. This is the plastic deformation by slip. This is stage 1 before slip. Slip in the single crystal, that is stage 2, and stage 3 this is slip plane, and after removal of load slip step. So this is slip plane and this is the after slip plane. And here we talk about mechanism of plastic deformation by twinning. This is dislocation of line deformation moves up and down on one plane each time that twinning dislocation goes round it. That twinning process may be created by impact or thermal deformation or thermal treatment by plastic deformation. So in twinning, each plane of atom moves through a particular distance and in the same direction. The extent of movement of each plane is proportional to its distance from the twinning plane, is shown in the diagram, and the distance moved by each successive atomic plane is greater than the previous plane by a few atomic spacings. So this atomic structure and atomic arrangement on either side of the twin plane is in such a way the mirror reflections by each other. So this is the plastic deformation by twinning. This is twinning plane and this is twinning direction. This is twinned region. And when we differentiate by slip and twinning, crystal slip and twinning. Slip is the line defect and twinning is the surface defect or otherwise grain boundary defect. And during slip process, all the atoms are in the particular block move the same distance, but in the twinning process, atoms in each successive plane in a block move through different distances proportional to their distance from twinning plane. Slip is commonly observed, commonly find out in BCC and FCC structure of metals, that is body centered cubic and face centered cubic structure of metals, slip. And twinning is commonly observed in hexagonally closed packed structure of metals. And after the slip, the crystal axis remains same, but after the twinning, crystal axis may be deformed. A slip process, the crystal lattice has the same orientation, but in the twinning process, crystal lattice is the mirror image of the original lattice. The stress needed for slip is comparatively very low, but the stress needed for twinning process is comparatively more when compared to slip process. Slip can be seen as thin line when it's viewed under microscope, but twinning can be seen as a broad line. This is also viewed under a microscope. Slip occur threshold value of stress called and twinning occur no such a threshold value of stress needed. And next, fracture of metals and alloys. A process of breaking a solid into different pieces, a number of pieces, that is called that resultant force acting on the stress, that is called fracture. There are two stages of fracture occurs. One is crack deformation and another one is crack propagation. In this classification, first one, ductile fracture. Ductile materials undergo observance of plastic deformation and absorb significant more amount of energy before fracture. So here a crack formed as a result of ductile fracture that propagates very slowly when compared to the we are increasing the stress. So here plastic deformation is a multi-phase material that create a formation of voids on the face and includes the inclusions in the boundaries also. These holes or voids are acting for the specific appearance of the ductile fracture surface, that consisting of numerous spherical micro cavities, dimples, that initiate the crack, and then finally crack propagates and finally fracture will occur. So here tensile fractured specimen by the ductile mechanism, that is characterized by a cup and cone appearance of the fracture. Single phase alloys and pure metals are having more ductile than metals but containing second phase or inclusions. Up to now we see another fracture, that is called the brittle fracture. That brittle fracture is very low plastic deformation and low energy observation period to breaking, period to fracture occur. This crack is formed as a result of brittle fracture that propagates fast and without increases the stress applied to a particular metal and alloy. This brittle crack is perpendicular to the particular stress direction. There are two possible ways of brittle fracture. First one is transcrystalline transaggregational cleavage or intercrystalline, that is intragranular. So this cleavage cracks pass along the crystallographic plane through the grains, and this intercrystalline fracture occurs through the grain boundaries that embrittled by segregated impurities. Second phase, inclusion of other defects. So this is the ductile and the brittle fracture mechanism of schematic diagram of ductile fracture and stress applied in this direction, and this is the brittle fracture. How we have to testing the material under compression, shear and tensile loads. And before we have enter into the testing of materials, there are two kinds of testing of materials available, and in that first one is the destructive testing and second one is the non-destructive testing. So here the mechanical test may be grouped into destructive and non-destructive tests. Destructive tests are the tests which are carried out to the specimen's failure. So name itself it shows that destructive testing. Destructive means we have to destroy the material and then find the property. That is called, we have to destroy the material, we have to waste the material, we have to fracture the material, we have to failure the material, we have to destroy the material and then find the properties of the material. That is called destructive testing. Examples for destructive testing is testing of tensile test, compressive test, hardness test, shear test, ISAR test, impact test. So those kind of test is called the destructive testing. We have to prepare a specimen and then break the specimen. After that applied load, the material will destroyed. That is called destructive testing. Another one kind of testing is called non-destructive testing. Name itself it's clearly understood that non-destructive. We have not destroying, we are not damaging the particular material. Non-destructive testing is a testing and analysis method that is used by industry to evaluate the properties of a material, evaluate the properties of a component, evaluate the properties of a structure or system for characteristics, difference or welding defects and discontinuities without causing damage to the original part. We are not damaging, we are not causing any effect to that original component or original materials, but we are performing the test, that is liquid penetrant test, and other so many tests are X-ray, dry fraction. So many tests are available that is used to test the material. That is called non-destructive testing. So there are only two classifications, that is testing of materials under destructive testing and testing of material non-destructive testing. Destructive testing, we are destroying the material and then know the particular property of the material. Examples for destructive testing are tensile test, compressive test, impact test, shear test, other. And non-destructive testing, we are not damaging, we are not destroying the material, but we have to know the property without damaging the original components. That is called the non-destructive testing. Examples of non-destructive testing are liquid penetrant test, X-ray diffraction, and so on. So in that first one, tensile test is used to find the tensile strength of a given specimen. In that we have to find the elastic limit, yield strength, ultimate tensile strength, and Young's modulus, percentage of elongation and reduction in the respective area. So those kind of properties we have to study while conducting the tensile testing. This is the tensile test universal testing machine. These are the specimen, and we have to place the specimen in this place. We have to apply the tensile load. So this is the specimen. This is upper jaw. This is lower jaw. Vertical frame, and we have to move the jaw. The reading is noted here, and this is elastic deformation up to now. So here necking, and finally the necking fracture. Fracture will occur in the tensile testing specimen. This is the fractured strength. This is the necking. This peak point is called the ultimate tensile strength, and here we have to draw. So here necking fracture occurs, so this is called tensile testing. And in this tensile test, this is the specimen, this is overall length and distance between two shoulders, this is the gauge length, and this is the width of the specimen, this is the gripping section, and these two sides are gripping sections. So here when we put it in the specimen to the tensile testing machine, specimens are placed in the grips of the universal testing machine at a specified grip separation, and that specimen is pulled, that is tensile force is applied until the specimen fractures. So here American Society for Testing of Materials, that is ASTM standard D3039, is used for test speed that can be defined by the material specification or time to failure, that is 1 to 10 minutes based depending upon the material. The test speed for standard test specimens is 2 mm per minute, that is 0.05 mm inch in per minute. So here extensorometer or strain gauge that is used to find the elongation and tensile modulus. So based on the reinforcement and type of testing, more than one orientation may be needed, means it could be used. So finally a graph drawn in between stress and strain. There are some applications of tensile testing. So based on the tensile testing, we have to use the material, that is aerospace areas, turbine blades are used this kind of tensile testing, and automotive seat belts, pumpers, mud flaps are put it into the tensile test before comes under using. And packaging, ring pulls, tight packing, we have to do the tensile testing. And sporting area, rocket strings are tightly tied together, and before comes into the application, we have to test the tensile test. Next is compression test. That compression test is carried out in the cubic material. This test is to study the behavior given the material under compressive load. The original dimension of the specimen, like original dia, that is called the gauge length, etc. The specimen is mounted on the universal testing machine between the fixed and movable jaw. The load range in the particular machine is adjusted to maximum capacity of load range is 300 kilonewton, and the dial gauge is mounted on the machine at the appropriate position and finally adjusted to 0. Now the machine is switched on. The compressive load is applied gradually. So tensile load is pulled and the compressive load is, tensile load is pulled like this and compressive load is compressed like this. So finally the compressive load is applied gradually. So every 10 kilonewton of load is gradually applied. The reading of dial gauge is noted and finally tabulated. And after that, remove the dial gauge slightly below the expected load and up to yield point. So finally, record the load at that yield point. The yield point and the pointer on the load scale will remain stationary for the small interval of time, and the needle will come back by 1 or 2 divisions. That point is lower that particular yield point. The specimen is loaded continuously up to the ultimate load, which is to be noted. So finally, what is the maximum limit of compressive load, that should be calculated. So this is the finally graph drawn in between plastic deformation, strain, that is called compression versus stress versus strain. So this is compressive load. So finally, this is the after compressive load, this will happen. So this is before testing, and after testing the specimen will like this. So here before test and height in depth, there is after brittle fracture, the brittle material will likewise the fracture will occur. Ductile material will shape is deformed is like this. And next mechanical property testing, that is shear test. Shear test is to find out the shear strength of the given specimen under ultimate testing machine. And here shear force, that is the type of force which the force causes, or that force create two contiguous parts of the body to slide relative to each other in a direction parallel to their plane of contact, that is called shear force. So the stress needed to produce a fracture in that particular plane of cross section that acted by the shear force, that is called shear strength. So here we insert the specimen in that particular position and grip one end of the attachment in the upper portion of the specimen and another end in the lower position. Here we bring the drag indicator in contact with the main indicator and select suitable range of load and space the corresponding weight in the machine. Pendulum and balance it if necessary with the help of small balancing weight. Push the button for driving the motor to drive the pump. So gradually move the head control lever in the left hand direction till the specimen shears. So finally we have to note the load at which the specimen shears. So that is called shear test. This is the diagrammatic view of shear testing machine, and we have a Brenner hardness test to testing the hardness of the particular metal or alloy. It's used to find the hardness of the given specimen using Brenner hardness test. In this Brenner hardness test, a steel ball of diameter capital D is forced under a load capital F to the surface of the test specimen. So here we have to place the test specimen, and in this Brenner hardness test this is the testing procedure, and insert a ball of diameter D in the ball holder of the particular machine, Brenner hardness testing machine, and specimen surface is cleaned by before placing the testing specimen. We have to clean the surface. It should be does not contain oil, grease, dust, etc. Make contact between the specimen surface and the ball using the jack adjusting wheel. Push the required button for loading. Pull the load release lever and wait for 15 seconds. Remove the specimen from the support table and locate the indentation. The view of the indentation through the microscope and measure the diameter D of the indentation using the micrometer fixed on the microscope, and repeat the procedure and take another 2 or more readings, and finally we can calculate the average. And likewise, Rockwell hardness test also used to find the hardness of the given specimen. The hardness of the material is resistance to penetration under the localized pressure or a resistance to abrasion. So here indenter is placed. Here we place the testing material and lifting rod. This is the loading charging, and this is the dial. This is upper cover, back cover, and this is the diagrammatic view of Rockwell hardness test. And here we have to place the specimen and the platform given in the machine, and using the elevating screw raise the platform and bring the specimen just in contact with the ball. Apply the initial load until the small pointer shows the red mark, and release the operating valve to apply the additional load. Immediately after the additional applied load, bring back the operating valve to its position and read the position of the pointer on the C scale that gives the hardness number. So repeat the procedure and 3 to 5 times. The specimen for selecting different points of indentation, and finally we have to calculate the average, and then finally we have to calculate the hardness. So likewise Vickers hardness test also. Charpy impact testing machine. Impact testing, impact is the certain applied load to a particular specimen, and this is called Charpy test. And this is a proper striker is to be fitted to the bottom of the hammer and with the help of clamping piece. The latching take for Charpy test into the firmly fitted on the bearing housing at the side of columns. The frictional losses that can be find free fall of test. The raising of hammer by hands and latch in the release of hammer by operating lever. The pointer will then indicate the energy loss to the friction. So this is ISAD impact test that is used to find the impact test. Impact is the sudden or frequently or immediately applied load after the fracture of the material. So impact factor through ISAD testing. ISAD, we have to carefully operate the pendulum while brake when returning after one swing to stop the oscillation, and then we have to calculate the impact test in terms of joule. And main comparison of Charpy and impact testing are the materials used are in Charpy test metals, but ISAD impact test is plastics, and types of notches are here. Impact testing machine we have used in U and V notch, and but ISAD testing machine V notch only. Position of the specimen are horizontally, and but ISAD impact testing machine position of the specimen is vertically, and striking point for Charpy impact testing is middle of the sample, but ISAD impact testing machine upper tip of the sample. And common specimen dimensions are when we have to prepare a specimen 55 into 10 into 10 mm, but here ISAD impact testing machine 64 into 12.7 into 3.2 mm for plastic, and it differ from metal, that is also 27 into 11.43 mm for metal. Common specifications are used for ASTM E23, ISO 148 or EN 10045, and here ISAD testing machine ASTM D256, ASTM E23 and ISO 180. And fatigue test. Fatigue test is materials is subjected to repeated cyclic load. That materials fails at stress below the yield point stress. Such type of failure of a material is called fatigue. The failure may occur even without a prior indication. We are not knowing the failure indication, but failure may occur. The fatigue material is affected by the size of the component, relative magnetic of static and fluctuating loads of, and number of loading intervals. So this is repeated a cyclic load create a fracture or failure of the material. So this is for fatigue testing machine. And we have to take the material and required size and dimensions. Specimen is placed in the machine and the force is applied via bending movement, and the force induces a surface stress that will be a tensile on one side and of the sample, and compressive on the opposite side of the sample. When the test is initiated, the sample will rotate at the particular rate, and this rotation will cause the surfaces to interchange, so that each surface is experiencing the alternating tensile and compressive loads. So one side tensile load and another one side compressive load. So compressive load, the sample is left in the machine until fracture. So finally the controller display the number of cycles it looks for the sample to fail. How many cycles it will take to sample will failure. That is called fatigue test. This is the testing machine. Here one side compressive load and one side tensile load, and we have to give a repeated cyclic loading until the material will fracture. And grip test is the material is subjected to prolonged constant tension or compressing. Prolonged constant tension and compressing loading and at constant